Hi friends, good morning and welcome back. Continuing with our revision series of CA Final Costing. Last chapter in my revision series here is chapter number 7, Pricing Decisions. Now this chapter is continuation of chapter 6. Chapter 6 which was decision making. So the practicals in this chapter are as such continuation of decision making chapter. You find the relevant cost, add the profits at the selling price. But this chapter has theory parts which are new. You noticed that decision making chapter did not have much theory topics. Chapter 6 decision making did not have any major theory topics, but this chapter pricing decision has many theory topics here. So my revision session here is mostly pertaining to the theory topics plus at the end I'll also give you certain tips and suggestions regarding practical questions of this chapter. Yes, apart from that, there is one important practical topic in this chapter which is new for the new syllabus, which is my first topic over here. Yes, so let's start with the revision. Well, the first part in the chapter is about pricing under different market structures. Well, under this part, you have some short revisions from your CPT level. Yes, revision from your CPT level, which I will definitely not revise now, assuming that you all are being CA final students, assuming that you know your CPT topics well enough. So the first topic here is different types of market structures. Types of markets can be perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly. Your book, your study material that I have given you contains details of each of the 4 types. If you need to know the details, you can refer the book. Yeah. Now, within that, I'm giving you my first important practical topic here. Yes, my next topic here is for practicals. And in fact, what I'm now giving here is used at many places. We have already done that in decision making at many places. We've already done that in transfer pricing chapter also at many places. What is this topic about? It is about pricing. Pricing means deciding the selling price by profit maximization model. Profit maximization. Now you know that law of demand. What does law of demand say? Law of demand says that with the increase in price, the demand will decrease. So if I compare price and the quantity demanded, P is the price, Q is the quantity demanded. If I compare that, you know that when I increase the price, then the quantity demanded will decrease. Yes, when I increase the price, then quantity demanded will decrease. Well, that is exactly what the law of demand says. Law of demand states that with the increase in price, the demand quantity decreases. Well, so should I increase the price or not? How should I decide which price should I keep? Should I keep low price or should I keep high price? Well, we need to set the best price such that overall profit is maximum. Look, if I set a very high price, then I get good profit per unit. But in that case, number of units will be less, so my total profit will decrease. If I set a very low price, if the price is set very low, then the quantity sold will be more. But that more quantity does not give me enough profit. So how should I decide which is the best price to set? Best price will be the one at which total overall profit is maximum. Well, this decision is called as pricing by profit maximization model. Yes, you decide the price at which the total profit is maximum. Now this can be done in 2 ways. First method is trial and error method to do that. Second method is an equations method to do that. Well, trial and error method for profit maximization we have already done in many questions. We've done that in decision making chapter, we've also done that in a transfer pricing chapter, we've also done that in this chapter of pricing over here. Yes, what exactly is to be done in that? Simple. The question will be such that you will be given various alternatives of price and quantity. You will be given many different prices already given, say 5 different prices given, and at each of those prices different quantities demanded are already given. You just need to identify the profit for all these options. Yes, you identify, you calculate profit, or better, instead of profit, you calculate total contribution for all these options. Why contribution? Because look, whether I set the price as the first price or whether I decide second, third or fourth price, in any case fixed cost is going to remain same. So ignore the fixed cost. You calculate total contribution for each of these 5 options of prices, and whichever option gives you highest total contribution, well, that becomes the final price that you should set. This is my method 1. I call this as the trial and error method. Why trial and error? Because you try calculating a total contribution at each of the options available. Yes, this is my trial and error method. You calculate total contribution at different prices given using the different quantities. Choose the price which gives maximum total contribution. This method gives an approximate answer. Why? Because under this method, the price that you finally decide is not the overall best price. In fact, under this method, this final price which you decide is the best out of the given options. This will be the best price out of the given options. Now, isn't it possible that if this option, if this price shows you highest contribution, maybe isn't it possible that some price in between over here might give you even more contribution? Some price in between here might give you even more contribution. You never know because you never check that option. So yes, this method is good enough because it is giving you the best price out of the given price options. However, if you need the best price overall, not out of only these options, if you need the best price ever, then you need to follow equations method. Equations method will not be possible in every answer. It will be possible only if the necessary details are given. Yes, now equations method says that profit is maximum at the price when MC equals to MR. Now this I am not deriving. This logic here comes from your CPT level. This logic comes from the CPT level. Profit is maximum when MC equals to MR. It comes from your CPT level. Let me remind you, in your CPT level, you might have learnt about the profit maximization model using graph method. Say in my graph method, I show that this is my demand. This is my demand, this is my sales. It shows that with the increase in price, the quantity demanded decreases. Yes. Now, if this is my demand, then this same line also indicates my average revenue. On an average per unit, what revenue do I get? Yes. Also, if this is my average revenue, then this second line here would indicate marginal revenue. You might have done these graphs in your CPT level, and if this is my marginal revenue means the revenue that I get from one additional unit sold, the price that I earn from one extra unit sold, that is called as marginal revenue. Yes, okay. And if this is my marginal revenue, you compare that with marginal cost. Marginal cost graph used to be like this. It shows that marginal cost means the cost which I incur for every additional unit that I produce. In other words, variable cost. Yes, for our costing subject right now, we consider that marginal cost equals to variable cost per unit, and variable cost per unit in my costing subject remains constant. You know that variable cost in our costing subject, per unit variable cost, we assume it remains constant. So if variable cost per unit remains constant, then my graph of marginal cost will not be a curve, rather it will be a straight line like this. My variable cost, marginal cost per unit is this, or variable cost. Now if this is my variable cost, marginal cost, this is my marginal revenue. Now profit will be maximum when MC equals to MR. That is, say, this point here. Because you notice that before this point my cost is less, revenue is more. So as long as you are getting more revenue than the cost, you keep on selling the units. But as I sell more units, with more number of units sold, my marginal cost increases, my marginal revenue is decreasing. So after this point now, after this point, you notice this area now, after that point of intersection, every extra unit that I sell will have more of marginal cost, less of marginal revenue. After this point, every extra unit that I sell is having more cost, less revenue. Why would you sell those units? Why would you sell that unit which is having more cost, less revenue? You will not. So maximum, until what will you keep selling? Maximum you will keep selling until you are getting revenue more than the cost of that unit sold, until your marginal cost equals to marginal revenue. Well, this point indicates my point of equilibrium. Equilibrium meaning these are the exact number of units which you should sell. If you sell number of units, if you sell quantity less than this, then you are earning less profit, because next unit has a scope of still some profit. If you sell any quantity more than this quantity, meaning the extra units which you sold after this point are giving you loss, because those extra units, you see that these extra units have more cost, less revenue. So at the most you should sell exactly these many units, and to sell exactly these many units, what is the price, what is the selling price that you should keep? Well, at exact these many units, what should be your average selling price? At exactly these many units, your selling price you can obtain from the graph over here. This becomes the price that you should charge for selling these many units. Well, this is what you obtain by graph method. In your exam, you don't need to make a graph and give so much efforts to find the price. Rather, you find the price using equations method. So we make equations for each of these graph. Average revenue here indicates the graph of demand. Average revenue is basically the demand graph. You see that line itself is a demand graph. Yes, from the demand graph, from the demand equation, we will make equation for marginal revenue. Notice that over here. Well, this diagram here is just the logic, is just the proof behind the fact that profit is maximum at the price when MC equals to MR. Because if I sell units beyond this units, then every extra unit will have more MC, less MR, more cost, less revenue. We will not prefer to do that. So the units that we will sell will be until my MC is equal to MR. For that many units, whatever price is available, whatever price you should charge becomes your best price to be charged. Done? Yes. Okay. So basically this is also derived from my earlier method only, that if I wish to sell more quantity, then the price I should charge less. So which quantity should I sell depends on my MC equals to MR over here. Done? Okay. In short, that was the proof behind this sentence over here, that profit is maximum when MC equals to MR. Now how to find that price now? Well, I give you steps. Step 1, identify linear equation for demand versus price. Well, demand equation is this. This is called as my equation of demand, which shows that P equals to A minus BQ, where P is the price, Q is the quantity, A is the price at which quantity will be 0, meaning maximum price at which 0 units are sold. Well, that will be given in the question. This has to be given in the question. And B is the slope of the line. Slope is a statistical term. You can find that slope using this formula, that B is change in price by change in quantity. Like if the price increased by this much percent, how much is the change in quantity? For every 2 rupees increase in price, say 10 units quantity is decreasing. For every 2 rupees increase in price, quantity decrease by 10 units. So for every 2 rupees increase in price, quantity decrease by 10 units. Then 2 by 10 becomes my slope of the line. Yes, that slope you need to calculate, that will also be given in the question. Change in price for change in quantity, all that will be given in the question. You find the value of B. Once you have A and B, you can put them in this equation here. It gives me my equation of demand. Equation of demand means this line over here. Okay, let me show you that better graph over here so that later you can copy if needed. This line here shows the demand, and you notice that this point on the y-axis here indicates A. Why? Because you notice that this is the point at which my quantity will be 0. So this is the price at which quantity sold will be 0. Then when you increase the price, then when you decrease the price, then more units will be sold. As you decrease the price, more units are sold. So there must be some topmost price at which my quantity sold is 0. That becomes your A value. Yes, and B is the slope of the line. Slope of the line you get by taking change in price, divided by change in quantity. Yes, that change in price divided by change in quantity will give you slope of the line. Yeah, okay, that also will be given in the question. Now if this is my demand equation, based on this equation of demand, we need to find equation of marginal revenue. Now what does marginal revenue mean? Marginal revenue means the revenue from one extra unit. It means that how much does my total revenue increase when units increase by 1 unit. Well, for that matter, first let us identify total revenue. So step 1 was I made the equation for demand. Step 2, I make equation of total revenue. Total revenue based on this price. Look, this was defining P equals to A minus BQ, that is price. Now total revenue is P into quantity, price into quantity. Take price as A minus BQ and quantity as Q. So A minus BQ into Q, that is AQ minus BQ square. Now marginal revenue means revenue from one extra unit sold. Well, as per mathematics, for one extra unit sold, how much extra revenue do I get? You can identify that by differentiation. Well, that is as per the logic of differentiation mathematics, calculus. I will not teach you calculus logic. I'm just using calculus to get my point here. Yes, so hopefully from your CPT level, you remember that what is the purpose of differentiation. When is differentiation used? Differentiation is used when I need change in one variable because of infinitely small change in another variable. Here I need to know that how much does the total revenue increase because of infinitely small increase in the quantity. Not a 1 unit increase in quantity, but because of infinite small increase in quantity, how much does the total revenue increase? That is what I want to know. Well, for that I use differentiation, because look, quantity increase might not just be 1 unit. It can be say half kg or 0.1 kgs or 0.001 kg. Any increase in quantity might be there. So differentiation will take care of all such smallest increase in quantity. So marginal revenue is differentiation of total revenue with respect to quantity. Differentiation of total revenue. Now total revenue is AQ minus BQ square. So differentiation is D by TQ of total revenue, d by dq of aq minus bq square. Now if you know how to do differentiation, you should know that differentiation of aq minus bq square with respect to q will give a minus 2bq. This a minus 2bq is my marginal revenue, so mr is a minus 2bq. You already had the value of a and you had the value of b, put them over here. Marginal revenue is a minus 2bq and marginal cost is the variable cost per unit that will be given. So marginal cost is variable cost per unit, it will be given. Generally variable cost per unit might remain consistent. If it is constant, then it might be given as equal to constant, or if it is not constant, then that marginal cost will also be given as an equation. Whatever it is, it will be given. Chalo, most of cases marginal cost in my costing subject will be constant. If it is constant, then marginal cost per unit is constant, variable cost per unit is constant, then its graph might be like this. While marginal revenue graph will go like this. And the point of equilibrium is when this marginal cost becomes equal to marginal revenue. So the point when both are touching, this point is my equilibrium. So for that point, MC equals to MR, you identify quantity, and then using that quantity, you identify the price. Yes, so dekho, that's what we do. So profit is maximum when MC equals to MR. So step 4, identify MC, whatever is given in the question. Now take MC equals to MR, that is step 3 equals to step 4. Step 3 equals to step 4. Make equation, solve equation, find quantity. Once you find quantity, now this quantity indicates equilibrium quantity, meaning best quantity to sell. Using this equilibrium quantity, find the price from P equals to A minus BQ. This is your demand law, demand equation. Using that demand equation, find price using the quantity. You have the Q, find the price. This price indicates the equilibrium price. Done? Yes, this is the best possible price at which the profit will be maximum. It will be a price even better than the trial and error method. It will give you profit even better than the trial and error method profit. However, this method will be possible only and only if these things are given. In fact, notice when you apply this method in practical questions, when you apply this method, I would say that this is not needed. This was just a derivation which I showed you. For applying this in practical questions, all you have to do is this. You need to identify what is A and B. After that, directly put that in this equation. MR is A minus 2BQ. Identify MC. You find A and B. Put that in this equation. Find out MC. Take MC equals to MR. Solve the equation. Get Q, then get P. P you will get using P equals to A minus BQ. Done. In short, the differentiation point which I told you, it is just for the derivation. You will not find that even in the institute study material. That is out of the basic knowledge about differentiation that I have given you. Yes. Anyways, like I said, you don't need that basic knowledge about differentiation. You don't need to know this derivation here. Rather, you can memorize the formula. Marginal revenue is this. Equate that with marginal cost, find the quantity, and put that in price equation, find the price. Done? Yes, this is what we had done in some practical questions in class. You can refer the classwork practicals for that if you need help. But this is pretty famous and it has been asked many times in the exam. Well, in The November 19 paper, this did not come. So in May 20 paper or November 21 or November 20 paper, I expect this might come in the exam. Yes, so take this very seriously, refer the practical questions of this. Done? Okay. This was one of the important practical topic in the chapter. Now the rest of the theory topics in the chapter. Principles of product pricing. Well, theory topics like this one, principles of product pricing. It says cost should not be considered as the only important factor for deciding price. There are other factors also for deciding price. Yes, rather profit maximization is an important determinant for price decision when there are comparative situations and elasticities. Important determinants are also competition and elasticity, because when the product is very elastic, then just by considering cost you don't decide the price, you need to consider the competition also. Well, that is why I give you certain principles of product pricing here. First one, price customization. Price customization means that you can customize the price. Many companies will customize the price, meaning charging different prices based on product line. Different range of products will have different price. 32 GB phone, 64 GB phone has different pricing, or based on customers past behavior. Like if he is a regular customer, you charge a lesser price. Based on demographics, based on age, you charge a different price. Senior citizens different price, adult children different price. Okay, based on time differential. Based on time differential also you can charge a different price. How frequently do you purchase, after how long do you come and purchase, that can also be a factor for price customization. Price customization means charging different price. And it can be based on these four things. Yeah. Next one is more important, price sensitivity. Well, the word sensitivity basically indicates like elasticity. Try to understand here. Normally your law of demand states that law of demand will state that if I increase the price, then quantity will decrease. Now when I say that price sensitivity is very high, meaning elasticity is very high. If elasticity is very high, it means that with the increase in price, quantity decreases drastically, because my product is highly price sensitive. Highly price sensitive meaning small increase in price will bring down the quantity drastically. That is called high sensitivity or high elasticity. While if I say that there is low sensitivity, meaning low elasticity, means what? Low sensitivity means that even if I increase the price, it means that even if I increase the price, still my quantity comes down, yes, but my quantity comes down very marginally. Well, that dotted line indicates that quantity comes down, but a very marginal decrease in quantity will happen. Meaning, even if you increase the price, the quantity does not go down very much. Means my product is less sensitive to the price. Well, do you understand what does high sensitivity, low sensitivity mean? Sensitivity here is basically like elasticity. Now, you are given various factors here which define the price sensitivity. Yeah, sensitivity measures the customer's behavior to a change in price. Like when I change the price like this, what is the behavior of the customer? Does the customer decrease quantity drastically, or does the customer decrease quantity very marginally? That is called as sensitivity. High sensitivity means small increase in price, quantity decrease drastically. Low sensitivity means that with increase in price, quantity decreases only marginally. Well, there are different factors given here based on which my sensitivity would depend. Let us study those factors. Unique value effect. If my product is unique, nobody else has a similar product, then my sensitivity will be low. Low sensitivity means even if you charge more price, quantity will not decrease drastically. Yeah, you might copy this, you might write this in your notes so that you understand what does high sensitivity, low sensitivity mean. Similarly, substitute awareness. With respect to substitute awareness, there will be high sensitivity, meaning if the customers are aware of the substitute, then sensitivity will be high. Look, what is important is not availability of substitute. What is important is awareness of the substitute. Imagine there are substitutes of your product available, but the customer does not know that there are substitutes available. Well, if the customer does not know that there are substitutes available, so for him it is as good as no substitutes available. So whether it is available or not doesn't matter. What matters is whether customer is aware of the substitutes or not. If the customer is aware of the substitutes, then the sensitivity will be high, because now if you charge high price, then your quantity will drastically decrease because customer will go and buy the substitute. He knows that there are substitute available. If the customer knows that substitute is available, so definitely your price sensitivity will be very high. Okay, that is substitute awareness. Second, difficult comparison effect. If my product is difficult to compare with other products, then price sensitivity will be low, because if he can easily compare, then he can see the other product as a substitute. If he cannot compare, then he cannot see the other product as a substitute. Yes, imagine there is another product similar to mine, but I have made my products with so complicated features that it is difficult to compare. If it is difficult to compare, then the customer will have less price sensitivity. For example, while buying a laptop, while purchasing a laptop, there are like hundreds of options available. Yes, you want to buy a laptop, I want to sell a laptop, but the laptop which I am selling has a configuration which is very much different from other laptops configuration. If you don't have any knowledge about laptop configurations, you don't know what is RAM, what is CPU, which is the latest CPU, you don't know anything about it, meaning for you it is difficult to compare the laptops. Now for you, if it is difficult to compare, then when I charge more price, you will not compare my price with other price because it is not comparable. You will be ready to pay more price, meaning low sensitivity. So as the product is difficult to compare, then sensitivity will be low. Total expenditure effect. It says that if the portion you spend on my product is a very small portion of your income, the money you spend on my product, if it is a very small portion of your total income, then the sensitivity will be low, because out of your monthly expenses you are spending very small portion on this product. Out of your monthly income you are spending very small portion on this product. So I would say that the sensitivity will be low. Even if I charge little more price, you will still buy the product. Demand will not decrease. That is called a total expenditure effect. While end benefit effect, if the money you spend on my product is a very small proportion of the end product cost, of the total cost of end product, then again the sensitivity will be low. Say for example, you are doing car manufacturing, motor car manufacturing. Now in car manufacturing you purchase many different parts. One of the parts that you purchase was, say for example, one of the parts that you purchase is a very small insignificant part of the car, like say the floor mats. The floor mat that you purchase that from me. Now you are manufacturing a car, the cost of the end product is 5 lakh rupees. The cost of the complete car is 5 lakh rupees production cost, and the floor mat that you purchase from me is costing say 500 rupees. So my product is a very small portion of the end product cost. So even if I charge, instead of 500, if I charge 550 rupees, still your demand will not decrease drastically, because my product is a very small portion of the end product cost. That is called as end benefit effect. Yeah. Shared cost effect. If you are sharing this cost with somebody else, then again sensitivity will be low because you will share the cost with someone. Sunk investment effect. if my product is related to another sunk investment meaning you have already invested some money, and to support that you need my product. For example, you have already purchased a petrol car. I am selling petrol. If I am selling petrol, then even if I charge more price, you will have to still buy my petrol because you are using a petrol car. Your petrol car is a sunk investment. You are using an iPhone. Now, if you are using an iPhone, then you will have to buy my earphones only, because Apple does not work with any other earphones, for example. So that becomes my sunk investment effect. So even if I charge more price, you will have to buy my product only because that sunk investment will not work with any other product. That is called sunk investment effect. Low price sensitivity. Price quality effect. Price quality is basically talking about perceived quality. If the customer perceives that my product is high quality, then he will be insensitive to the price. Even if I charge more price, he will still purchase my product. Look, your quality need not be actually very high, but perceived quality should be high. Again, for example, Apple phones. People have a perception that Apple phones are very premium quality. It is just a perception. Actual quality is not that good. Well, in my opinion, actual quality is as good as, say, Samsung phones itself. But people's perception matters. If the perceived quality is high, then you can charge high price because sensitivity is low. Yeah. And inventory effect. If the product is not storable, then it has low sensitivity. Now let me explain this. If the product is not storable, meaning like perishable product, if it is a perishable product, then in case of high price, you will not decrease your quantity. Think opposite. In case of low price, in case the price decreases drastically, then will you increase your quantity drastically? No, it is a perishable product. Even if it is available at a very less price, your quantity will increase marginally only. You will not accumulate and store it because it is not possible to store. So again, that means low sensitivity. For this last point over here, low sensitivity, you consider the second situation. Done? Yes. Okay, that is price sensitivity. Next is discussion regarding different pricing methods. Well, different methods of deciding the price. First method, cost-based pricing. Cost-based pricing meaning I decide my selling price based on the cost. Well, one method is that I will decide my price based on full cost. Full cost including depreciation. So I will calculate my total cost of the product plus the profit is my selling price. However, in this case, overheads allocation is arbitrary because to calculate full cost, you need to apportion overheads. Overheads apportionment might be approximate, might be arbitrary, or might lead to under absorption, over absorption. Well, that is why another option is that pricing, it might be decided as price equals to variable cost plus some markup. Instead of doing plus profit, I will do plus markup. Markup will accommodate fixed costs as well as profits. Yeah, profit or markup might also be based on ROI, return on investment. The practical questions we did in a class. Initially, the first few questions we solved in a class, most of them were asking you to reach a desired return on investment. Well, your desired return on investment, if it is given, then you take the full cost plus the desired return on investment, or you take the variable cost plus the desired markup on investment you add will give you the pricing. This is called as cost based pricing method. Second one, competition based pricing method. This means that my price is decided based on what my competitor is charging. Meaning, under this case, my price does not depend on my cost. So even if my cost changes, even if my demand changes, still I will not change the price unless my competitor changes the price, because my price is based on what my competitors are charging. Pricing based on what competitors are charging. So even if cost changes, demand changes, still we do not change the price unless the competitor changes his price. Under this category, there are some subcategories here. Going rate pricing, meaning I will set my selling price equal to the going rate, market price. When is this applicable? This is applicable when there is high competition. Remember perfect competition? I'm not a price maker, I'm a price taker. I have to accept whatever is the going rate. I have to accept whatever is the market price. Yeah. So that happens when there is high competition and homogeneous product. Homogeneous product means all the competitors are selling exact same product. Only then I can use the price what the competitor is charging. Yes. And it is difficult to measure cost. Well, I will follow the going rate price because for me it is difficult to measure my cost. Yes, there is no pricing decision to make. I don't have to decide the price. Price is the market price. So I can focus only on cost control. Look, generally to maximize profit, I can do two things. I can charge more price or I can cut the cost. In this case, I cannot charge more price. So the only way to maximize profit is to do cost control here. That is my going rate pricing method. Second, sealed bid pricing method. Bidding process where my company will submit price in the form of a sealed bid. Sealed meaning secret. Sealed meaning I will not let my competitors know that what price have I quoted. Accordingly, I will quote the price to customer. They will also quote the pricings to the customer. Customer will decide which supplier he will buy based on whoever gives him the best price. Generally happens in case of government contracts. Yeah, the firm offers a price based on expectation of what the competitor will offer. However, in that case also, I will never quote a price below my marginal cost. I will try to quote a lowest possible price, expecting that my price should be lower than what the competitor has quoted, but still I will not quote lesser than my variable cost, because in that case I will incur losses. Yeah. And the third one, value based pricing, meaning pricing is based on customers' perception of its value. Well, under that, two categories: objective value or true economic value and perceived value. True economic value meaning the value that the customer is intended to get from the product. Pricing is based on benefits that a product is intended to deliver to the customers. It is talking about benefits which are intended to be delivered. Whether the customer will actually take that benefit or not doesn't matter. Whether the customer will actually make use of that additional features or not doesn't matter. But it is talking about pricing based on benefits that my product can deliver to the customer relative to other products. So how do I calculate this? True economic value is the cost of next best alternative plus the value of performance differential. This is the meaning. Well, this is the definition, this is the meaning. To explain that, I have written the next line here. Notice, the cost of next best alternative meaning price of a competing product plus value of performance differential meaning plus value of additional features. So the price that I should charge from you should be the price of the competing product plus the value for additional features. Whatever extra features I am giving, for that extra features I will charge you premium. Whether you need that features or not, I don't care. That is called as true economic value. While perceived value might be little lesser than that. Perceived value is the price that the customer is ready to pay. Now customer will be willing to pay only based on the features that he is willing to use. Naturally, so price that customer is willing to pay is called as perceived value. Pricing must be such that it creates value for the customer. Creating value for the customer is like consumer surplus. You should finally decide a price such that it creates some value for the customer. For example, if the perceived value that the customer is willing to pay is 100 rupees, then you decide the price as 90 rupees. So if the customer perceives that the product is worth 100 rupees and you are charging him only 90 rupees, so it gives 10 rupees value creation for the customer. Only if it creates value for the customer, then only the customer will buy. Otherwise, he will not buy. Yes, it should create incentive for the buyer to buy and incentive for the seller to sell the product. Then only that price becomes a good price. Then this is the theory under value-based pricing. Further, pricing in the period of recession and pricing below marginal cost. Well, in case of recession, the firm may continue to sell at price less than total cost. In case of recession, you can set the price less than total cost, but not less than marginal cost, but above the marginal cost. And that also for a limited period of time. Limited period only until recession is going on. The benefit of this will be that you can at least continue business during recession. With continued business, you can retain employees. Good employees, you don't want to let them go. You can prevent machine idleness, because if you stop, then machine will remain idle. Idle machines will create more problems. Plus, you can prevent the competition from acquiring my customers. Yes, so during recession, you continue selling at lesser prices. However, you can also sell below marginal cost. Pricing can be below marginal cost only in the following cases. Well, pricing can be done even lesser than marginal cost, meaning you sell at loss. Pricing below marginal cost means you sell at loss. Now, why would you sell the product at a loss? Well, you will sell the product at a loss because it is a perishable product. If you don't sell, then there will be more loss, or because stocks are accumulated so much and the market prices have fallen. Yes, or maybe because you want to save the carrying cost. You don't have enough storage space. You want to save the carrying cost, so you let it go at even losses. Or maybe you sell at loss to promote a new product. That is what Reliance Jio Telecom did. Yes. Or you can sell at a loss to boost sales of another related product. You can boost the sales of another related product which has good profits. Generally car manufacturers sell the car at heavy discounts, because after selling the car, you will definitely later on purchase the car services and you will purchase the spare parts of the car, in which they will charge you very good profits. Yes, so you can sell one product at a loss in order to boost the sales of another product having very good profits. That can also be a reason. These are the reasons why you would sell at a loss. Why would you sell below the marginal cost? Done. All this you might use in your case studies and analysis. Done. Further, pricing of new products. Well, when you are launching a new product, what can be the price strategy? Well, under that, first three topics we learned together, then the last two. First three says that the new product might be a revolutionary product, meaning it is complete new for the market, or it might be evolutionary product. Evolutionary meaning it is just an upgraded version of the new for the market. And me too product is not at all new. Me too is like a copy. It is like a cheap copy or related copy of some revolutionary product. Yes, so revolutionary product is new for the market. It can create its own value. It has a potential of becoming a market leader. Hence, you can charge a premium price. Evolutionary product is just an upgraded version with a few additional features. So it will get a good price, but not as much as the revolutionary product. Okay, and me too product is an emergence as a result of success of revolutionary product. It is a copy of the revolutionary product. It cannot get a premium price. It is a price taker, not a price maker. Done. Okay, now for launching any new product, there are two strategies: skimming price and penetration price. Skimming price means you charge high price during the launch of a new product and later you reduce the price. Later, prices are gradually reduced. Yes, during the launch, there is anyways high cost of promotion. There will be anyways high promotional expenses. So high price you charge when you have high promotional expenses. That method is called as a skimming price. The purpose is that cream crowd of your product is called as the skim. Skim matlab cream. Milk ke upar that cream which comes, that is called as the skim. So skimming price means that you want to target that cream crowd only. Cream crowd is inelastic to price. They are ready to pay more price. Now if that cream crowd is ready to pay more price because it is a new product, then you take the maximum benefit out of it. Best example, Apple phones. When it is launched, they launch at a very high price because there is a cream crowd who are those dedicated Apple fans. They will definitely buy the product even if I charge 1.5 lakhs for a phone. Yes. Also example, movie tickets. Especially say Salman Khan movie. Well, if Salman Khan has a new movie launching, then there are many people who are big fan of Bhai, and Bhai ka movie aa raha hai, so yes, we will pay as much money as they charge. Even if the movie ticket prices goes into 1000 rupees, still they will buy the ticket because this is the cream crowd which are crazy fans of Salman Khan. Yes, this is called as a skimming price. Later, second week, third week onwards, that same movie ticket price will be dropping down. Yeah, that is called as skimming price method. In the initial period, when the demand is not known, it covers the initial cost of production. Especially in case of movie tickets, they have very huge promotional expenses. So huge promotional cost in the initial period requires skimming price method. Or second, penetration pricing, exact opposite. Penetration pricing, exact opposite, is when it is a policy of using low price during the launch of a new product for penetrating the markets, ensuring long-term survival, and it ensures long-term profitability. When you know that your product is a long-term product, when you know that your product is going to have a longer life cycle, then for long life cycle products, penetration pricing is best. You know, movie tickets or movies have a product life cycle very short. The life cycle of a movie might be at the most 1 or 2 months. They have to gain maximum profit within that 1 or 2 months only. Hence they follow skimming price. But the life cycle of telecom industry, Jio Telecom, is pretty long. It is not like the Jio Telecom will operate only for 2 months. No, it will be for many years altogether because they are targeting long life cycle. Hence they follow penetration pricing because it will ensure long-term survival. Yes. But penetration pricing, you need to analyze the scope of market expansion. If it is having a scope of expansion, then only you do penetration pricing. Otherwise, if you know that there is no scope of market expansion, why would you do penetration pricing when you know that you will never get more sales here? Yes, the purpose is to popularize a new product and discourage new competitors. That is my penetration pricing. Predatory pricing is different from penetration pricing. Little different. Predatory pricing means selling the product at a very low price, even lower than the penetration price, even making losses. Purpose is to drive the competitors out of the business and to create barriers to entry. Well, I would say that Reliance Jio Telecom followed an example of predatory pricing. Example, Jio Telecom. They launched the product at very low prices, free of cost. So naturally, they launched the telecom services making losses. Purpose was to drive the competitors out of business. Vodafone is almost on the verge of bankruptcy. Airtel has stuck over still but Vodafone had already told the government that if Jio Telecom will not stop this, then we will run into bankruptcy. Yes, so it is to drive the competitors out of business and to create barriers to entry. It is adopted when demand is very elastic. Naturally, you charge less price if you know that charging less price will increase demand drastically. Yes, it is done when demand is elastic, when there will be substantial savings on large scale production, and there is threat of competition. If all three conditions exist, then and only then predatory pricing might be useful. Done? Yes. Okay. Further, then some other topics in the chapter. I'm just showing you the summary. I'll not discuss them in detail. Other topics like price adjustment policies. Prices can be adjusted because of distributor discounts, quantity discount, cash discount. Discount will decrease the price. Giving discount is a price adjustment. Price discrimination, charging different price from different group of customers. And geographic pricing, meaning charging different price in different geographical areas. That is called as price adjustments. Sensitivity analysis in pricing decisions. Sensitivity analysis means to analyze that what will be the change in my sales and change in cost because of any external changes, like external or internal changes. External changes like demand, market price, exchange rate fluctuation. With the change in demand, what will be my change in sales? With the change in market prices, what will be my change in sales? With the change in exchange rate, what will be my change in sales and cost? That is called as sensitivity analysis with respect to external changes. Similarly, sensitivity analysis can be done with respect to internal changes. That if my initial outlay, meaning capital investment, is changed, what will be the change in sales and cost? What will be the change in sales and cost if R&D cost is changing, if production cost is changing, if marketing is changed, whatever, all that are my sensitivity analysis. And the last topic in theory is pricing of services. Look, most of the chapter we focused on pricing of goods, products. But well, businesses also do the business of providing services. Service industry. Well, in case of service industry, it is very much possible that there will be distinct pricing structure for each customer because the service given to each customer might be different. Yes, so there will be distinct pricing structure unique to each customer because services might be unique to each customer. That is a problem. Look, under this topic we are learning issues, meaning problems that might be faced while pricing for services. First problem is that different customers might be given different services, so I need a unique pricing for each customer. Secondly, if the customer also participates in service providing, he's also contributing in the service, then my pricing should accommodate the intangible cost. My pricing should also accommodate the cost that customer may have to bear. To that extent, I should charge a lesser price. Okay. In certain services, prices are government regulated, like say medical services and all. Prices are government regulated. Coronavirus testing is government regulated service. Okay. And in some cases, prices are collectively fixed by trade associations. There are many trade associations who collectively decide a price for the services. That can also be an issue involved here. Done. These are the issues involved in pricing of services. Lastly, I give you certain notes for practical questions in this chapter. Well, these notes I have drafted based on all the practical questions we did in class. Now, if you remember, in the chapter, starting few practicals, we had the questions where you decide the price when profit is given. Either profit will be given directly in rupees, either profit is given directly in rupee terms, or profit is given as percentage of sales, or profit is given as percentage of capital. Many such questions we did. In all those questions, the easiest way to decide the price is this. Step 1, you assume selling price equal to X and using this X, find profit. Step 2, calculate the profit which is required. Either the required profit is given in rupees. Calculate the profit required which might be given either in rupees directly or it might be given as percentage of sales or it might be given as percentage of capital. Whatever, identify that profit required and then equate step 1 and step 2 to find X. X is the selling price per unit. Yes, this is what we did in many questions of our classwork. Secondly, in some questions, discount is offered on the list price. The word list price means MRP, printed price, basic price, meaning price before discount. If discount is offered on this list price, then for calculation, you treat this discount just like a cost in the above method. In the above method means in this method. Follow that same method, assuming selling price as X, but consider the discount as a separate item of cost. We did that also in one of the questions, hence I made a note about it. Third, if profit required is not given, look, if profit required is given, then these are the steps. If profit required is not given, meaning you find the price which gives maximum profit, then follow profit maximization model as explained earlier, as explained in the starting of my summary notes. Trial and error method or equations method in profit maximization model. Yes. Fourth, if new offer is obtained for one of the joint products. Remember, we had one question where you had joint products, and if I give you new offer for extra units of joint products for one of the joint product, well, you cannot produce one of the joint product. So if I get a new offer for one of the joint products, then other product will also have to be produced, and accordingly for that other product, selling price of these additional other product might have to be reduced. If you produce extra units of other product, you will have to decrease the selling price of that other product in order to ensure that sale. Yes, this also we did in one question, you can refer that. If there are two products and both require same contribution per hour, we had one question where my one company is having two products and target profit is given, profit required is given, but they need to give me some method of distributing that profit between both products. Well, they told us that both products require same contribution per hour. Now, if there are two products both requiring same contribution per hour, then take overall contribution per hour also same. Naturally, if product A should get 2 rupees per hour contribution, product B also should give 2 per hour contribution, meaning overall contribution will be same 2 rupees per hour. Naturally, if product A gives 2 per hour, product B is giving 2 per hour, then overall contribution will also be same 2 rupees per hour. That is my logic here. And the last one, if minimum selling price is asked in any question, if you see the word minimum selling price is the one at which my profit is 0, because naturally I will not accept a selling price which gives me a loss. So when they ask me find minimum selling price, meaning the price at which my profit is 0. Now profit 0 meaning that is selling price should be set equal to cost. Which cost? Well, again two situations in that. If the product is well established in the market, then I say selling price equals to total cost you set. But if it is a new product, then you say selling price should be equal to only variable cost, because whether you launch new product or you don't launch new product, in any case fixed cost is going to remain same. Fixed cost is not relevant. So you launch the new product if that new product is getting selling price anything more than variable cost. But if it is your existing well established product, main product, regular product, then this regular product should give me selling price equal to variable cost plus the fixed cost. New product might give me selling price equal to only variable cost, then also it is good enough. Done? Yes. Well, this are the notes which I have drafted out of all the practical questions we did in the chapter. Done? Yes. Okay, so that finally completes my revision series over here. Chapter number 1, chapter number 5 and chapter 11. These three chapters I am not making summary notes, I am not giving you revision videos, because these chapters are like very simple chapters, small chapters, only theory that you read from the regular book. Done? Yes, that's all. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed my revision series. Please do show your appreciation in the comments below and tell me if you need anything more. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. All the best. Study well in the exams. Bye bye.